there was a person whom was in your space, and it was called the Seven Dwarves of Menopause.
Yes.
You got itchy,
Yeah. The
the
itchy, the
second
sweaty,
and yeah,
and happy
itchy,
ones.
sleepy, sweaty, bloated, forgetful, and all dried up. I thought that was just pivotal
Yeah.
right there. Your guest, the person to whom you were in referencing from, you stated that Suzanne Summers said that.
Yeah. She said that when I met her for an interview. She wrote it in one of her menopause books, but it was an interview and it was just classic. Just like you said, it puts all the words into perspective of what women are feeling, in this menopausal, perimenopausal time frame. It's just like it's not just one thing.
You're listening to Cold Press Conversations with Dr. Jewel White Williams, a lover of numbers, lists, and a good glass of cold press juice, who is sharing episodes each week to help you explore the back end of healthcare and health sciences. Where a lot of that grit is done, we'll dive into topics covering research, education, and clinical practices, as well as guest shows with other leaders in the field. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these amazing and game-changing conversations.
Hello, hello. This is Dr. Jewel, and I welcome you to Cold Press Conversations. I am thrilled, elated, and excited that I have a wonderful guest with me, Dr. Amy Duffy. And she is coming to us from South Carolina. I love my South. Sorry, y'all. Got to give it to you. And I am just elated because she has such a wealth of knowledge that I would like to share with you. I know that this particular fall that I'm focusing on health literacy and making sure that people understand how to be more informed about the care and what's happening. But she's going to take us to such a pivotal point of not just from a physician's side, but also from a personal side. I think that's one thing that I think that many of us are going to be so elated to have. But before I go any further, I just need to let you know that Dr. Amy Duffy is the founder and medical director of Carolina Integrative Medicine. And she specializes in functional integrative medicine, helping medical providers improve patient health. She uses real patient stories and clear explanations to reveal and treat the hidden interactions between hormones, body systems, and food, helping patients achieve a better quality of life. She is the #1 international best-selling author of Normal Doesn't Have Side Effects and a sought-after speaker, having spoken at the Harvard Club of Boston, NASDAQ, and New York City Bar Association, and the CNN Center. She's also a frequent guest on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox Network TV shows. Her books, Normal Doesn't Have Side Effects and Why Can't You See Me, which is co-authored with her daughter, the last one. She shares personal insights, personal experiences as a physician, mother, and a mother aiming to improve health literacy. Her work in integrative and functional medicine continues to positively impact her patients and the medical community, promoting a healthier, more balanced life. Dr. Duffy, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
Excellent, excellent. As I stated earlier, I'm a person who I did my Strength Finder in 2.0, and I found out I am a learner amongst many other things.
Yeah.
This time, I think I learned from you, Dr. Duffy.
Well, good. That's a huge part of one of my passions. I mean, obviously, is being in medicine, but the more I can share my experiences, like you said, not just the medical knowledge that I have, but the personal experiences with myself, my family, my patients' experiences. It touches lives, and having platforms like yours, I'm so thrilled that we have the technology and the ability to have more platforms like this, because we can't just get into every newspaper or magazine anymore. Sharing this message and letting people know that these stories are out there and there's different ways to do things. You
Yeah,
don't have to
yeah.
be stuck in the world that you feel like you're in. And there's always more to learn, for sure.
And I think that's one thing I want to let the guests know that I did not finish the second book, and I'm kind of glad because I think what we're going to have to do, fam, we're going to have to bring back Dr. Duffy and her daughter.
Yeah.
I think it will be important that we bring that back because there's a message, a huge message, and we're just going to touch on
Mhm.
that today. But there's a huge message that goes along with this. But I do want to let you know that I did have an opportunity to read Normal Doesn't Have Side Effects. Just to give heads up to everybody, I don't have the physical book, but it's ordered. Okay, it's ordered. But I do have my Kindle notes, which are right here. with not only the highlights, the notes, all the above. We'll be talking about the different chapters and all that, but also include some of the pivotal points about medicine and how she is helping creating a change for women. Especially, I do have sometimes opportunities to discuss women when we start that perimenopausal, premenopausal, postmenopausal, all that fun stuff. And we're dealing with hormones and we're dealing with emotions. But
Mhm.
there is so much that goes on. I know I gave just a little background about who you are, but is there something else in this journey that you would like to share with them that is in alignment with your current practice?
Everybody always says, "How'd you get into medicine?" How did you get to the place that you're in? And this is certainly chapter number one in my book is babies, right? So I just absolutely adored babies when I was little. I had all the Cabbage Patch Kids, the bald ones with the big chubby cheeks, and my friend's mom was a seamstress, and so we used to sew all their clothes. I just had suitcases full of Cabbage Patch clothes and all the accessories. I just loved babies, and anytime I got to hold a baby, a real baby, it was just absolutely thrilling for me. And so I knew that I was on some path. I didn't know I was going to be a teacher, a pediatrician, or, what was going to happen. And when I was in high school, the family that I babysat for was having another baby, and they invited me to be in the delivery room with them. And that was just, the most amazing experience. Most people go, ooh, gross. But I was all, yes, I want to be there. And I was at the head end, I was not at the business end. But I mean, I remember, the moment that baby Josh was born. And I just thought, this is the coolest thing. And this is what I want to do. And I want to deliver babies. I want this experience to bring life into the world. So, I went to college, I went to medical school, residency, delivered over 1,000 babies in my career. And, that was fantastic. Had I not had babies of my own, I probably still would be delivering babies because, they don't come at, between 8 to 5 on a Tuesday. So
No,
you have to kind of adjust life a little bit. Um, but what happened is that when you get involved in taking care of babies, when you're not delivering babies, you're doing, women's health GYN kind of stuff. And traditional medicine, well, I should say it's just kind of blown over. I mean, there's not a whole lot of education about women's health in traditional medicine. It's cardiology, it's gastroenterology, it's this, it's that, it's dermatology, but there's, the GYN part is just kind of surgical or delivering babies, and the whole physiology of what's going on with women just sort of gets glossed over. And so, basically your treatment choices are birth control pills or antidepressants. Which one are we going to choose? Like, now I'm being a little facetious, but that's really where we are, right? And I was very unhappy with that role that I was playing in women's health. So I really started digging deeper and reading a lot more and learning more and going to conferences, and happened upon this whole world of bioidentical hormones and this then world of functional and integrative medicine, where you start kind of putting the big picture together and how hormones interact with each other. And it's not just about your estrogen or progesterone, but then you've got thyroid hormone and you've got your adrenal hormones, and then insulin is a hormone. And we start getting into, weight issues and that sort of thing. And so it just opened up this huge world that I didn't even know existed as a physician. And, the more I get into it and the more we get to change lives by really looking at the root causes, and there's multiple layers to what's going on. But, rather than someone saying, I think something's wrong with my hormones, and then getting told nothing's wrong with your hormones, or, oh, well, let's just put you on birth control. That'll kind of, reset your hormones or take care of it. There's so much more that we can do to help impact the quality of life that people are experiencing. And that's just so rewarding for me. So, that's really where I started in the baby world. And now I don't deliver babies, but I feel like I kind of rebirth. We get to bring life back to people who really felt like their life is just not what they want it to be.
I told you I got my little quotes.
Yeah.
You put in your book, and going backwards, all right? Because, ladies and gentlemen, she has 5 pillars, okay? She talks about the 5 pillars of health. She talks about pillar 1, detoxifying your body, pillar 2, balancing your hormones, pillar 3, managing stress, pillar 4, fitness, and pillar 5, have a mentor. And I think what was kind of interesting is that I probably won't be able to say one of the words, but let me tell you, you'll understand from between the lines. There was a person whom was in your space, and it was called The Seven Dwarves of Menopause.
Yes.
You got itchy,
Yeah. The
the
itchy, the
second
sweaty,
and yeah,
and happy
itchy,
one.
sleepy, sweaty, bloated, forgetful, and all dried up. I thought that was just pivotal
Yeah.
right there. Your guest The person to whom you were in referencing from, you stated that Suzanne Summers said that?
Yeah. She said that when I met her for an interview. She wrote it in one of her menopause books, but it was an interview and it was just classic. Just like you said, it puts all the words into perspective of what women are feeling, in this menopausal, perimenopausal time frame. Is just like it's not just one thing. It's not just a hot flash, that you can manage to adjust your temperature or whatever, but it's just, I mean, people just don't feel good. They're not sleeping well. They've lost their drive. They're not motivated. They're exhausted, they're overweight, they're, itchy, their skin's not right, their hair's falling out, mentally they just don't feel good. I hear this all the time. This is not who I am. I'm a happy person generally, and I'm not happy right now. I just don't feel like me anymore. Their relationships have changed because, unfortunately, the way life is, we tend to take our loved ones for granted, for lack of a better word. I mean, we take it out on them, right? Hopefully they're not going anywhere until they get really sick of it. But, we get nice to our strangers, but we're not so nice, to the people we share our homes with. So,
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty interesting because that was a segue into how you ended it. It was in your chapter 10 talking about you need a mentor. And it was one quote you said, life begins where your comfort zone ends.
mhm.
And you said your mentor stated that, look at you, I see that hits you, that belief system. And I think that's where we're going to take it, that your intention is to make sure that we as women are at a point where our life can still be and begin when we're in our comfort zone. And I
Mhm.
love that. That was just powerful right there alone.
It stretches you, it's recognizing that, a lot of people get complacent, this is the way life is, this is the way it has to be. I don't know any other way. It takes some courage, it takes some bravery to step out of whatever that is and, some pretty big intentions. And sometimes that's psychological, sometimes that's, big for people whether they have to get out of a stressful situation. So in my story, I talk about having to get out of a marriage that was really unhealthy,
Yeah.
and I fought it for a long time because I thought, here I am, I'm a doctor, I have 4 kids, you're supposed to stay married, you're supposed to stay, happy. You don't do that, and religious, whatever your belief system is, until I realized like this was not only holding me back, but it was affecting me being the best mom that I could be because I was so unhappy in that relationship that I was not present for my kids. And that led to some other dysfunction for them for sure. That took a huge step of bravery, if you want to call it.
No, it
And I
was.
think,
No,
unfortunately I didn't have a mentor about that because I didn't share it with anybody. I didn't want to tell people that I was in an unhappy marriage and that we weren't perfect, because you want to be the perfect family and everything's just fine and we don't want to talk about those things. And so being able to fast forward, now 6, 8 years later and talk about it to help other people to realize that you're not alone and you don't have to do this by yourself and you don't have to stay, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a job, whether it's wherever your situation is, if this is not where you want to be, you may not know what the next door looks like, but you've got to open that door and you've got to get out of what feels comfortable because it's not taking you anywhere.
So I like research. I love education. And that's what brought you where you were today. You really and truly to identify and get to your 5 pillars of health. You stated that you attended a conference which piqued your interest into bioidentical hormone replacement or
Yeah.
natural hormone balancing. And that is what gave you that trajectory to where you are today, is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, I always say that that's like the Alice in Wonderland when she went through that tiny little door into
Right.
this, world of rainforest and beauty, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I wasn't miserable, in the medical field that I was in. I didn't know any different, right? I mean, that was just a place. What I knew is that I didn't like the conversations that I was having to have with my female patients about hormones. They're having the symptoms. We know that the medications that we were offering were not good based on our latest research with the Women's Health Initiative. And really, the statement that we were getting from the powers that be was give the patient the lowest dose possible for the shortest period of time to get their symptoms under control. And then they had to go off of it. That doesn't feel good. I mean, when you're sitting here saying, okay, I can give you something that may cause you harm, but it's just going to be for a little while, there was zero confidence, zero control over whether this was going to cause this patient harm or not. How could I determine that that was okay for that patient if they were asking questions or they were on it and they felt amazing? And I'm over here like, you need to come off of that now because you can't be on it forever. I mean, it was just so uncomfortable and so just not innately like, I know what's going on here and I know what advice to give this person. So it really was not good. And that was really that first step to say, this is not meant to bash the medical system, but, because I'm in the medical system, but it's definitely uncomfortable, and I think there's probably a lot out there that's happening. And it's just unfortunate the way the system is set up right now. But there's so much more awareness and knowledge out there if we're given the opportunities to learn more. I started, this whole process by going to a hormone conference. And now I speak at hormone conferences and I teach this to other people because again, the more that I can share, the more that they're going to, take it to their hundreds of patients. And that's just that many more lives that we can touch and affect by learning a little bit more. And again, going out of that, if you want to call the medical system the comfort zone, but it's a box that a lot of people are stuck in and it takes some effort to get out of that zone. We're not doing anything crazy and malpractice by any means. We're
Oh.
just doing it differently, better.
Oh, I love that. I love that. One thing that I gathered when I was reading your book, you knew that it was time for a change. You did the integrative medicine, you started learning more, speaking about hormones. COVID came. Then we're looking at having to make a difference. And unfortunately, the one mentor who was there, we just need to give tribute and say thank you because he's no longer with us. But he made such a huge change in not just meeting the needs and allowing these 5 pillars become innate in your life, but how you're developing into your patients' lives.
Yeah.
Because you start having mentors take you to that direction.
I think back to that, we can always get more knowledge by any means, but I had a good foundation for the medical knowledge.
Mhm.
But, what we're not taught at all in medical school or anything is the world of business, and
Right.
how to manage a business and sales, I mean, like doctors aren't to talk about money and, how much things cost. And it's just, how are we going to take care of you? And so I really struggled with that. And when COVID hit, already financially, it was a struggle because I was trying to do this within the traditional medical system and billing insurance. But what I found is that I had to spend so much time with my patients that I couldn't see enough patients in the day, to make ends meet. And you see in the traditional medical system, I mean, you get what, 7 to 10 minutes maybe with your doctor. And that's why, because they're not getting paid hardly anything. And, so they have to see so many patients a day. That's all the time they have. Well, I couldn't effectively do what I wanted to do with my patients without spending more time with them. So I got stuck, financially, and I was really in a dark place. I mean, I had already gone through this divorce and I knew that, what's interesting is through this whole thing, and I'm just going to fast forward for a second, I never once had the premonition or thought that I wasn't going to be able to do what I was trying to do. I never once thought
That's good.
I'm going to have to shut my practice down. I just knew it wasn't working the way I was doing it. And I knew that there was a different way. But I didn't quite know what that was. And so I started searching in the story. I knew Michael Simmons from our speaking career and coaching and things like that as well. But when I got called to go to this, conference in the middle of COVID in August, and, nobody was traveling, no one was doing
Right.
anything. And this was again, like out of your comfort zone is like, hey, we're going to bring these medical leaders together to, sort of gather and just be together in this state of fear. And it was in Atlanta after all the riots were happening and all this kind of stuff. So it was just kind of crazy. I mean, the fact that we got, 200 people in this hotel lobby and we were all sitting, we had our masks on and we were doing what we were supposed to do. Michael just looked at me that day at lunchtime and I almost didn't go. All I had to drive there, to Atlanta. And I could have just driven back and forth every day. I mean, it's a 2-hour drive for me. I was in that mental place where I didn't know that that was really what I needed or what I wanted. I thought I just got to focus on my patients and my, my business and whatever the powers that be, made me just show up. And, it's like that just show up. You never know what's going to happen. And so we sat at lunchtime and he just looked over at me and he said, "Are you okay?" And I just busted out in tears, I said, "No, I'm not okay." And all of this had happened, when COVID was in March, this was August. So 6 months of this isolation from our friends, from our people, from our support systems that we normally would have been involved and engaged with a lot more. And so, I just didn't even realize until I sat down with him in the lobby and we just started having a conversation and he just said, "I got your back. These are your friends, we're your people, and we're going to help you out." And he didn't charge me anything. He was the doctor's coach, and so normally, doctors are paying him to, to be coached and learn how to do this stuff. And he met with me every Friday for weeks to just sit down and say, okay, what are we doing this week? And what'd you do last week? And what's your plan for next week? And I mean, it was just pivotal in getting that transition, back to really be able to do what I needed to do for my patients. So that was huge.
No, that was I'm telling you, when it's your time, it happens.
Hmm.
And you were in the right place at the right time, it seemed. I call it the health mentor. That's what you really, really wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted to let the audience know where you came from, your research to how you have built your pillars and are now helping many individuals and also helping other practitioners,
Yeah.
um, so that they can be well suited. It's almost like passing the baton from Simmons.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what, Michael Simmons was for me in that setting of, not only from a doctor perspective, but as the business, side of things, helping support that. And so now, if there are other practitioners out there that are, thinking they need to do something different, and whether it's because they want to help their patients better or their own life, I mean, the life that doctors are living right now in the medical system is horrible. And, I mean, the rates of depression and suicide and things in that world. And even if it doesn't get to that point, but just, their health is not good, their happiness is not good. If there's any way, I mean, I'm helping them touch their lives, but then, again, that pay it forward mode is just going to be, how many more lives are they going to be able to affect, because of maybe something that I can help support them with. So, I love my patients. I love being in the office. I love doing what I'm doing, but it's so rewarding to be able to even pass that on to another practitioner who, can help support their patients too. And it just exponentially explodes.
It does. That's the reason I want to take it from that point, let people know that normal doesn't have side effects.
Yeah.
And you said something, I'm going to say it. To be successful, you need a plan and a support system that can help you learn, understand, and do all the things required for a fully functioning, healthy body. And you're not just talking about your patients, but the way you worded it seems like you were wording it for yourself as well.
Hmm.
And that was a pivotal point for me because I always talk about the wellness. We talk about health literacy so that the patient can understand what we're talking about. Even clinicians, practitioners also need to have their health mentor so that they can be their best selves as they're treating whom they are in the
Yeah.
field or in the community.
I often share that quote that you owe it to those you love to be at your best potential so that you can help them be at their best potential. And, I love my patients. I love my mentees. I love my kids. That's been a huge transition for me. Again, in writing this book over the years, is it's one thing to practice what you preach, but you really have to do it, and as a mom, we hear this all the time, like, it's the idea of being in a plane and putting the mask on yourself before you can help anybody else. Like, easier said than done, I know, but until you live through it, you have got to figure out how you can take care of yourself, because if you're just spent, and that's a lot of what I see in my patients, who are coming to me in this, late 40s, 50s, or even 60s, where they have spent years taking care of everybody else.
Yeah.
And they're taking care of their kids, and now, just when their kids are out, then their parents start to get older, and now they're taking care of parents, and now they're flipping back to taking care of, grandkids and things like that. And absolutely, we want to be able to do that, and I'm not saying don't do that, but
No.
if you're not taking a minute to take care of yourself, then it's going to be hard for you to do anything.
And you won't be there to help them later.
Yeah, you won't be able to keep pushing,
No, you can't.
and then
Uh,
who's going to take care of you. So
right? No, you nailed that one. You nailed that one. That's huge. I just want to say everything that we discussed today is pivotal for the patient, for the healthcare practitioner, and even meeting the needs. I see something that could be so pivotal. You just helping the other physicians who are in the 40s, 50s, or 60s and wanting to make a change for themselves, for their patients, or maybe even start their business. I see that baton truly passing, Dr.
yeah.
Duffy. I really do. Your wealth of knowledge, your impact that you have on your community and your patients is truly not just pivotal, but I see it just glowing from you and what you're doing. You really and truly are genuinely enjoying what you're doing, and you want others to have that same kind of joy. And I give you thanks for that. Is there any one thing that you specifically want to share with the audience today? Like one message?
I mean, gosh, there's so many in there. And I just want to touch a second on the title. When we say normal
Please
doesn't have side
do.
effects, that, that
Yes.
takes a little bit of an explanation. So, what I love about that and where that came from is when I'm with a patient and having a conversation with them about, what may be going on with them and what our treatment plan might be. And I say, ultimately, you're not broken. This is not broken. And that I think is what gets so frustrating for some patients is that they've been to other doctors and they've had tests run and everything's normal, right? And
Mhm.
so they feel like there's something wrong with them because, they've been told nothing's wrong with you, yet they feel horrible and they can't function. And so when we really dig deeper and we start specifically looking at the hormone side of things and recognizing that, things may be technically within range, but they're not balanced appropriately and everything's kind of dysfunctional and out of whack. When I sit down to explain what we're going to do and what we're talking about, and I say, oftentimes when you're at a doctor's office and you're getting a prescription for something, we're obligated or, supposed to say, here's the list of side effects to expect, right?
Yeah.
And, call me if you have this or call me if you have that. And I say, ultimately, I just want you to get back to normal, and normal doesn't have side effects. So when we're using this system and we're getting things aligned the way that they were supposed to, then that's not a conversation we need to have. I have no expectation that you're going to have a side effect. So that's kind of where that quote came from. But really, it just becomes this bigger picture, like we're talking about. I mean, what we should be doing, it's not outrageous. Being healthy shouldn't be as hard of work as it is.
Mhm.
I mean, it is so easy to be unhealthy, unfortunately, just the way that we live in the world we live in, right? But I mean, it just should be the norm. The norm should be energy and sleep and, normal weight and feeling really good and involved in your family and your life and your career and whatever. Like that should be the norm and it shouldn't be so hard. So, how do we get back to that? And that's really where those pillars come from is, we weren't meant to do this alone. We're a tribal society. And I think, what we found, it's interesting in the South. I moved to the South from Colorado, and my family was all spread out everywhere. So, in the South, you see where families and generations are still, living next to each other and we're in the same unit and whatnot. And so it's a little bit different here, but we weren't meant to do this alone. And it's so funny how, even with social media and the connections we have and these things, I mean, so many people just feel like they're isolated, and they're
Yes.
in competition with each other instead of being in communication. And that's what's so huge in this world of functional medicine that we're in collaboration. We're not here to compete. There are plenty of patients out there. We don't need to fight, for the patients. We need to help support each other. And if I can help somebody figure out a way to communicate, their message to somebody or set up their system so that they don't make the mistakes and have to go through the struggles that I went through, then, that's just one more thing that I can do to help support someone so we can all live a normal, happy life. It doesn't have to be so hard.
Oh, thank you. That's an awesome message. I really, really do. No, seriously, it's the honest truth. That is an awesome message. And there's so much more that's within the book. There's so much more to Dr. Duffy that we did not touch today. And as I stated, my intention is to bring her back because she has so much that she can offer. And some of her examples within the book will explain, actually evolves that title even more.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it like that. I'm giving y'all a hint, okay?
We'll come back, we'll have
Um,
part 2, maybe part 3, we have all kinds of stuff to talk about.
I'm telling you, I love this. I just want to say definitely thank you so much, Dr. Duffy, for joining me on Cold Press Conversations. This is Dr. Jewel White Williams with you. And until next time, I'm signing off. I want everyone to please take care. And remember, knowledge is power when it comes to your health.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cold Press Conversations. If you love this episode as much as I did, I need you to head on over and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This is Dr. Jewel signing off to health and cognitive happiness.